So thanks, folks, for joining us on a bit of a webinar about Unacast and Sites USA and how we're working together. Really excited to talk to you today. What we'll go through today is a little bit about what makes Unacast great, a lot about what makes Sites USA great, and why the two of us together make things awesome. You know, it's really the peanut butter and chocolate makes a great Reese's peanut butter cup. So really excited to share what we've got today, and I think you'll have a good time with it. So I'm Jonathan Schuster. I'm the Chief Product Officer over here at Unacast. Been around here for about a year or so now, but I come from the world of mobile data. I've worked around ad tech and MarTech use cases for this. I've worked on real world use cases for this for the bulk of my career, and I'm really excited to share with you what we're doing here, the innovation we're pursuing, what makes this really, really cool. Brian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, Jonathan. Thanks for having me here. I'm super excited to be here. I'm Brian Verselli. I'm the Director of Product Development at Sites USA, and really excited to kind of show everyone a quick kind of glimpse of some of the insights that you can gain with working with some of this great mobile data here. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for doing this. I think folks are going to be really excited about what they can see. So I think the place we'll start is, let me tell folks a little bit about Unacast. You know, at our core, we're a location insights company. We help folks understand how people move through the real world, and that lets them make better data-driven decisions. We do this with huge brands, we do this with platforms, and what's really cool is how we do this. As you can see on here, we serve some of the largest brands and work with some of the largest brands in the world, some of the largest platforms around mobility in the world. You know, I like to think of us as the ingredient that makes a lot of things really, really cool and makes things go. Brian, you want to tell a little bit about Sites?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, a little bit about Sites USA. We just celebrated our 30th year in business. And, you know, really our main goal is to just make complex data relatable with easy to use software. We've been supporting the commercial real estate industry for a while now, and helping make those data decisions for quite some time. We're always looking, you know, for great new insights and data to make these best decisions we can, and really keeping those processes user friendly along the way.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, Sites USA has so much experience with this. It's really great to get to work together with them on this. So thought we'd start with a little bit of how we see brands, really end users, use Unacast data. Because at the end of the day, it's not just a data set, it's about what problems can this data set solve for folks. And you'll get a view of how end users and brands can put this into action in the Sites USA platform. I'm really excited for what Brian has to show you in a minute. We think of the Unacast data as making it really possible and powerful to solve across 4 different use cases. You know, there's plenty more out there, but the 4 core that we see folks really using the data for are site selection, really figuring out where should I put a new location? Should I keep a location open? Should I close it? Relative to that, the performance, how well are you really doing? How do I benchmark how well I'm doing? And then that benchmarking in context, right? The competitive benchmarking. If I operate a Costco, what happens if a Walmart opens up down the street? What happens if my foot traffic is down? Am I really not doing well? Or is it actually everybody else's foot traffic is down way more than mine? Maybe I'm actually a hero. And ultimately forecasting, right? It turns into what does everything I know tell me about the future? What can I glean from this? And so at the core of what Unacast does is we bring these use cases to life by our understanding of how people move through the real world. What we like to talk a lot about is to get to those insights that can really help an end user drive meaningful value. They need great ingredients to understand what is really going on. And that's where Unacast really prides ourselves. the thing is that to get to a deep understanding of mobility and how people really operate in the real world, it's actually really, really difficult. The data's broad, it's messy, there's a lot to it. And so we think of location data as being really, really tough. That's why we like it, is because it's tough. And some of the reasons why it's tough, the supply is really, really volatile. That's out. All the supply that's out there is just volatile, right? Historically, the data has been data that comes off of mobile devices with consent, with appropriate use case, but publishers are bringing forward apps and they're pulling apps back. And so the data stream is all over the place. This isn't just a natural flow of data. It's really, really erratic. And as we see new regulations come into play, as we see the methods of consent changing, it's only going to get more volatile. On top of that, it requires a lot of data to really get this rich understanding, right? We keep 6+ years of this data on hand, again, in a GDPR compliant fashion, in a CCPA compliant fashion, more than just the letter of the law, with the intent of the law and consumer privacy at the forefront. But to keep that comes with a lot of cost and processing cost and storage cost and compliance maintenance cost. So it's hard and it's expensive. And what we're seeing more and more in our expertise in the space as we look at the data stream that's coming off of apps and that comes from all sorts of other sources as well, is there's more fraud than ever in the space. As the volume of available supply has gone down and will continue to go down because of regulation, right? What we're seeing is bad actors in the system who are manipulating data in unethical ways. They're replaying data, which means they just take old data and they slightly manipulate it and make it look like it's current data when it's not. P.S. You can only tell this if you have enough history to look for these patterns. It impacts quality. And if what we're really trying to do is help brands understand at the end of the day where they should make business decisions, we have to give them really high quality data to make those decisions. Making those decisions on bad data isn't great. You might as well make the decisions on no data rather than bad data. And last, we see this emerging threat to even some of the most premium publishers that are out there. These are folks who make apps. They are apps that serve really valuable purposes. And they've built side projects of streaming and selling that data off to other folks in the space. Well, there's increased threat of litigation, of compliance. And what we're seeing now are publishers like that saying, this isn't core to my business. What's core to my business is my applications that serve a need other than just the acquisition of location data. So maybe I don't actually need to be in this business anymore. So where does that leave brands? Because brands still need to understand who is coming to various locations. What are those folks like? Where that leaves us is with an opportunity. And the opportunity is this. We don't have to rely on simple extrapolations from GPS data anymore to truly understand how people move through the real world. The new opportunity here is really around machine learning. And so what Unacast has said, what we have said as we've looked at this problem of helping folks understand who moves through the real world, is that when we think about the real world, we realize that GPS data is only a very, very small piece of that understanding. There's a lot more context we need to truly understand as to why people are moving through the world they are. And it's only with the innovation around machine learning and the availability to do it at scale in the cloud that we can even do this. And we're sitting on a large enough corpus of data with a deep enough understanding that we've been able to actually pivot and understand how to do this in a more sustainable and efficient way. And so what we do in our modeling is we understand more than 50 factors about why and how people move through the real world. So GPS data alone, for example, can't tell you what people do when the weather turns really bad. You just know that some people move through the world differently. Well, now that I understand that the weather turned bad and a behavior changed of people, I can begin to understand how will that change in the future. I can begin to understand, oh, weather impacts visitation to a Costco different than a car wash. It should, but I need to understand that together, and I need my models to understand that. So we look at over 50 factors as part of our model to do it, and that's just going to increase over time. But here's where things get really cool, is by taking this more dynamic and balanced approach, first, the models are just more resilient, right? We're not dependent anymore on that one premium publisher that's sitting out there that's feeding my data supply. I can look at any number of sources. I can look at sources that aren't even GPS data to understand what visitation looks like. Weather's not GPS data. PS, weather's not going away. So that helps me understand things. But what's crazy about it is when we get this richer understanding, the results are actually more accurate. And it's more accurate. It makes sense when we step back and think about it, but it's more accurate because we now have a more holistic understanding of the behavior. And for all the folks who are saying, how accurate is it out there? There's this thing in data science and statistics called the R-squared value. And the R-squared value, when it's 1.0, says it is a perfect correlation. Doesn't happen very often. When it's 0, it says there's absolutely no correlation in here. When we look at the R-squared value against real ground truth data of how people visit stores, it's a 0.92. That means 92% of the time, it's a correlation. That's really good. What we see from most models out there, most simple extrapolation models, is it's more like 60%, slightly better than a coin flip. And while that's good, 92% is a whole lot better. So what I'm most excited about after just sharing all this cool stuff about how the supply works and how the ingredients come together is to show you and really have Brian show you how this stuff comes to life. Because as cool as the ingredients are, even better when they can impact actual customer decisions, behaviors, and things like that. So with that, I'm gonna pass it to Brian.
Awesome, Jonathan, thanks for that. There's some really good points there, really good insights. I think now we can take a look at really how this accurate unicast data can really impact one's research. So, there's really all sorts of new data available to analyze and study for site selection in commercial real estate. I think, one of the most intriguing and value-added data sets is this foot traffic mobile data. This data really provides a way to, research and really see where customers or visitors are originating from. So in front of us here, we've got a Costco in Kansas City, just for example here. And, really, typically most retailers, franchises, they're going to know the pole or, like a natural trade area that their visitors will come from. Radius ring here, this is a 5-mile radius. This has kind of been that default industry standard for quite some time, for as long as I've been doing this. And whether it's like a 1-3-5-mile radius ring, but they aren't really optimized to work with like natural barriers, boundaries, freeways, other factors, neighborhoods, things like that. So the next natural step would be, okay, well, if we jump to a drive time, right? A drive time, can be seen as a little bit better solution. It uses a natural road network. It can be fine-tuned for a specific time of day, day of week. And it really shows how far you can travel just in a given amount of time to your location of interest. So, but I think really, when you take the next step and you apply some of this mobility data and you see the actual foot traffic, that's when things start to come to light a little bit. What we're seeing here is what we call the true trade area, and that shows exactly where those most loyal visitors are located. You can think of this as like a pure customer loyalty data without really, the upfront cost of research and processing and all of that. All of this is just, right in front of you here. We're showing this true trade area of Costco. It's about 66% of the visitors. So, 2/3 of those visitors that visited the Costco. So, not only can you visually, see via the heat map, right? But that trade area follows a unique boundary that doesn't follow any pattern similar to the radius or drive time. It doesn't necessarily follow the freeway. It doesn't necessarily, link up to where those drive times and radius rings go. So now that you can, see this data and you can kind of see these differences. Okay, so what's a use case for this, right? Like, so some advantages that are available to you now. You can compare or benchmark your site to a nearby competitor site, right? You can see where their draw is versus where yours is. How does this compare to some of your other sites, right? Are you taking visitors from another location and possibly having that negative impact on that? Another thing would be you can study the true performance of this site. Unacast supplies monthly data for this. So this is your visit insights month to month to month. You can see, was there a recent uptick in visits here? We're coming up on, back to school shopping and things like that. Did you run a sales campaign recently? There's all sorts of insights you can gain when you're looking at this monthly visit counts. And then really, Unacast offers the ability to view daytime versus nighttime visitors. So you're going to see these behavior patterns. We offer the home visitors versus work visits as well, or what we classify as work visits. So, that's just more information you can gather just by kind of looking at this study here. So if we take a look at one more example here, this is a little bit smaller example as far as draw goes. This is a car wash location here in Chandler, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. You can see that these radius ring drive time polygons are a little bit smaller. It's a car wash, has a little bit smaller draw there, but a 3-mile radius at about a 5-minute drive time. And really this location is located near the interstate, right off the exit there. But when we apply the Unacast, mobile data, you really see that true trade area. And you can see that even though the radius ring and the drive time, they cover that east side of the interstate to count, let's say you were counting those neighborhoods or counting the demographics of that, really all those customers are coming from the west side. And that's where, your top 2/3 customers are coming from there, and you can visually see that and pick that up. So those are insights that, your standard data sets just won't be able to pick up. And that's a real value add there that you can get. So I've showed you some maps, I've showed you some things like that, but it's not just all map. There's a lot of data involved with this as well that you can really get information from here. So we've got options that you can click on a retailer and just quickly see the 3, 6, 9, 12-month views, whether it's in a quick graph form. You can see the ebb and flows of visits as the months have gone on, and see some patterns that way. You can also easily, there's so much data, you can easily compare it between retailer A to retailer B, right? Location 1 to location 2. We give you these options to compare not only these last 3, 6, 9, 12 months of data, but we also have same month branding. So someone who is visiting location 1, they are also visiting these other brands as well. And what are the similarity, behavior patterns between those, right? How similar are, or reluctant or non-reluctant are they, going to visit location 1 versus 2? And then lastly, you can always compare sites to see those brands and, get like what's the estimated visits per day, all of that good stuff. So lastly here, the most important thing for us and what we've been happy to really have Unacast as a partner for us is the coverage, and you're only as good as what your data is and what your coverage is for it, right? So Unacast allowed us to bring over 2 million locations to track, and these aren't just all branded locations. These are non-branded, big chains, small chains, mom and pop shops. So not only 2 million locations coast to coast, but it's the monthly updates for these. This is a lot of information that is available, and that allows this data to stay like fresh, it's relevant, and this is providing our users with constant access to really the best data available for us. With over 2 million points, that's probably some of the best coverage I've seen right now, and I'm really happy that we have access to it, and it's a great asset into our application. So.
Cool, Brian, that's an awesome example. And, I think what we just saw here with the example from Sites USA is this is really powerful. When you put Sites USA's understanding of geography and behavior across a space and along with their data and their platform, and you bring in the Unacast data, something new happened. Right? I said it's the chocolate and peanut butter that makes a Reese's peanut butter cup. It's really a 1 + 1 = 3 here. So it's so cool. Thank you for showing this, Brian. And for more information about all of us, you can get to Sites USA at sitesusa.com and Unacast at unacast.com. And we'd both be eager to share what we're working on. There's a lot of really cool innovation coming out of both companies, and we're here to help folks solve these really, really difficult problems. So thank you so much, and thanks for watching all the way through.